Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I am the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. But before we begin today's session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. So please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. Let me bring in Chris, our speaker for today's session.
All
Hey,
right.
there you go, Chris.
Thank you so much, Rashmita. I'm so excited to be here for you all. This is a live stream event. So good morning from London. And I'd love to hear where everyone is from. So please post in the comments. I've already seen some comments from you all from Korea and other places. So huge and warm welcome. Very exciting news today. This is part of something called Microsoft AI Skills Fest. You are part of a Guinness World Record. So if you're interested in participating, I would urge you to scan this QR code here so you can be part of that. So the game or the object today is to build a full stack application. So if you build all of that with us, you have a chance to be part of a record. Isn't that exciting? So, as I said, this is part of a Learn Live. The Learn Live is called the Agent Awakens, building applications with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. So, agents, right? I'm sure you've heard us talking about agents from Microsoft and from other places. And now GitHub Copilot globally has its own agent mode. This has been in preview for a while, but today is the day, and we are definitely rolling it out globally for all of you to use that within Visual Studio Code. My name is Chris Noring. I'm a senior advocate at Microsoft. If you're interested in connecting with me, here's my LinkedIn and my QR code for that, so you don't have to type. Moving on. Let's talk about something more interesting than myself, which is our agenda for today. So the idea of this Learn Live is that we'll go through what this GitHub Copilot Agent Mode is. Then we'll also talk about the learning objectives, because all of these Learn Lives have an objective. They are based upon a Learn module. And the idea with this Learn modules is that you should be able to learn whatever we set out as objectives, which is usually 3 to 4 different items. Moving on, we'll then explore the power of GitHub Copilot Agent Mode and what that can do for you. And I can tell you right now, if you haven't seen it before, you will be excited to all the features that it's able to do. In a short sentence, it will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you that you as developers have done a million times before. Why not offload all of that towards an agent? But of course, we need a theme for today, and that theme is our tracker application. It's a physical exercise application that will help make it fun for youngsters to do physical exercise. As I said, we will leverage GitHub Copilot Agent Mode to build this full stack application. So we will be building a front end, a back end, and a database. Just for you to have a context and see what are we building today and what things are important, here's all the things. So the setting here is in a high school, a fictive high school called Merge It In High School, with a few characters because we need some kind of users as part of the scenario. The users here are Paul Octo and Jessica Cat. And guess what? If you add Octo Cat together, you got the famous logo from GitHub. The challenge here, as I was saying, is that students today rarely exercise. I know how it is, folks. We are sitting there in front of our Xbox and we don't really get outside. It's the same thing with young people today. So we need to make it fun for them to do some physical exercise. So the idea here is that we build an application that will support all of this fun. So people will do social fitness thanks to this tracking application, and we will be using GitHub Copilot Agent Mode to do so. But of course, as we build this application, imagine now that this is a company or a school there are some policies that we need to adhere by. So we need to be able to instruct our agent to listen to those policies. The key features of this application, and this is quite ambitious, is that it should be supporting user profiles, activity logging, team competitions, leaderboard, personalized workout suggestions, and a progress tracking dashboard. Now, we will do as much as we possibly can today with all of these features, and you will see how that will work on the full stack, but it will leave some room for you to add more features. To limit this somewhat, we will follow Paul's journey today, one of our users, as he goes through the application. So that's what we'll be building. And yes, here is the Learn module in question. Remember how I call this a Learn Live? That means that we have a backing Learn module. So if you're interested in having a look at that module, take it yourself, please do so. But however, for the sake of this Learn Live, please listen to me as I guide you through the module, and don't do the module separately, because then you will miss out a lot of my guidance. So, but here you have it, here you have the link. So just click that up, put that in a separate browser tab. Right. So what we'll do as part of this is that we will start code spaces from a repo. I'll show you how to get there. So now I will switch from my presentation into the web browser. So give me a second here. Right. So here you have the Learn module in question. I just wanted to show you that Learn module, how it looks. So imagine now that I have clicked the Learn module. This is where I end up, building applications with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. As I said, all Learn modules on Learn have these learning objectives. So you can see what the objective is for what's in it for you. If you take this Learn module, what will you learn? Let me just show you here. Here's an introduction mentioning all about this Guinness World Record today. So hopefully you're excited by that. And yes, so let me just guide you very high level before we venture into code spaces. Here it talks about all about what the agent mode is. So you know what that is, and the benefits of using the agent mode, which is, as I said, it helps you with a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of it being able to install binaries or even run commands for you. So here you got a few different examples of where this agent mode really shines. So if you haven't seen, or maybe you've seen GitHub Copilot before, but if you haven't seen edits, you should know that that is multiple file edits, but agent mode takes that to the next level. So yeah, lots of information here. And there's also a link here so you can start the exercise and end up on GitHub. What that will do for you is to ask you to actually do a fork. So let me actually go into GitHub so you see what that looks like. I've already done the fork, but if you see what this fork is coming from, you see that it's coming from this site. So let me just click that up really quickly so you can be where I started. This is GitHub. This is the backing repo. This is where you will start your journey. So here's a nice little robot welcoming you all to this exercise. The idea is that you will hit copy exercise and open this link in a new tab. If you want to be a little bit faster, what you need to do is essentially to click the fork link here. So you have your own fork. This is important because all of the other instructions won't really work unless you've hit fork first. So make sure you click fork so you have your own copy. Once you've done that, you will end up here. And if you've hit, so we've hit copy exercise at this point, great. So we are kind of ready to begin. So what we can be doing, this is also worth doing. Let's see, we have click the copy exercise. Yeah, so we have done our fork, right? So we are ready to start. So you either click through the link of the exercise, but what I'll do is to start a new code spaces. As you can see, this specific repo doesn't have that. So I'll click the plus sign to kick off my code space. So this starts up our environment, and hopefully this is a fast business of just waiting a few seconds of it setting up the connection, so you can see what this looks like. Yeah, so Codespaces is quite fast, as I said, so you should be up and running within seconds. Yeah, we were. What's important for you to realize as part of this GitHub repo is where are my instructions? They are within this .github folder and the steps folder. So here are all the ambitious things that we will do today, all the different steps. So here's the first preparatory step. To make it easy for you to see what this looks like, I would recommend to open a preview, because what you will be doing is to copy paste a lot of the prompts within your agent mode. This is step one, so let's just read through this, what we are doing. We need to open it up in Codespaces. We've done so. Hello, Codespaces. We need to confirm that this repository is not the original repo on GitHub, but your copy. So what you can do here is just to make sure that this is different. SoftChris, that's my GitHub user. That's obviously different from the one over here, which is the one from GitHub. So just verify that you are on your copy before you start your Codespaces. And once you go through all of this, you will see that it's asking you to do a few things. Use GitHub Copilot mode to create a branch and publish it. Right. So this little interesting step here is nice, because this will actually introduce you to how the agent will work already. Okay, so what it's saying is, if not already there, return to Visual Studio Code within the code space. Open the Copilot chat window, if not already open. Let's do that. We've done that. Copy and paste the following prompt and select the agent instead of ask. Now we're done here. So it's starting off in ask, so we need to change this to agent. Now we'll be able to leverage the agent. Great. And what is it saying? Let's ask Copilot to remember a command and create the branch and publish it. Hey, Copilot, can I create and publish a new branch called build Octafit app? Okay. Let's try to do that. Let's just make sure that we're doing this in the right place. So now this is probably your first time using this agent if you haven't used it in preview before, but we're asking the agent to think for us and come up with a command, and also hopefully present this command to us so you can see how that will work for you. Right, so now it's saying create the branch locally. Okay, you can definitely do that. What you can also do is to go in here and open this up, because we want this to run via the terminal, right? And this is pretty cool. So now you can see what it's about to do. Git checkout -b, git push. If I hit run at this point, it will actually create this branch for me, which is one of the super cool things about this agent, that it presents the commands and then it runs it. And we can also see that it says build Octafit app. So it successfully then created the branch, pushed it, and we're on that branch. If you're in doubt, you just have to do git branch and you will be able to see that you are indeed in the right place. And this concludes the first part of our workshop today. So let's keep things neat and tidy. And let's see here for our step 2. What we'll do in our step 2 is our initial application setup, our directory structure. As I mentioned, we will be building a full stack application. That means that we will be building a front end in React, a back end in Django and Python, and a database using MongoDB. What it's saying here as our first instruction is to open all the files of the docs folder. The docs folder contains some detailed instructions for your project, how to build it, and also a story. This is generally a recommendation when you start a project, that you have a project description, so you're giving that context to the agent. What am I building? So it will be able to make some smart decisions for you. Right, and this is just emphasizing that you need to be on agent mode instead of the ask mode, just so things don't go wrong. Apologies for that. But yeah, it's important that you are on agent and not ask, or things won't work properly. So here, for our next keyboard activity, what it's saying is that I will take the Mona High School Fitness Tracker Markdown and use that as inspiration, as context, and to create the initial application structure. So we'll copy this. As I said, this is a copy-paste exercise today, but of course, you are still needed. You are the pilot, it is the co-pilot, but we will feed this information into the application. So now it should be reading all the interesting part here. And what I want you to see here is on the left side, what just happened is that you see this green looking text here. It's actually scaffolding applications. So, and this is something you need to get used to when it comes to the agent, how it indicates that it's working. And you can see here how there are a lot of pending symbols moving. That means that the agent is doing the work for you, and it's saying, I've been creating this file, that file, and so on. And I'm even creating a front-end piece as part of this. Yes. So what it's also saying is you need to run this command in the terminal to create a virtual environment. We need to make sure that we are in the root of the application. We are. So as you can see here, this is the agent working heavy for you by presenting you the command and giving you the option to run it. And this should ideally now be creating our virtual environment. Right. So now it's saying I've been creating this environment for you, and it just wants to activate the environment. That's what the source command is doing. And then it also wants to do a pip install, which means that it will now install all the dependencies. So we're going to hit continue on that. And now it kicks off an installation, I believe. So now we are inside of our virtual environment. We see that through the VNV here that we have stepped into that. To update pip install. Okay. Let's see in the backend quickly here if there was actually a requirements.txt file. Yes, there was. And you can see that there's a symbol here, right? You see the symbol here, the dot within the square. That means that we need to hit keep here for this to actually happen. And let's see, anything on the front end here? No, everything is good. The files are updated. Let's see, it was supposed to do a pip install. Sometimes the agent isn't perfect, so I should just say that it has definitely run the command to activate the environment, but it didn't look like, I think it ran this. So let's try to run this manually again. And again, this is why you're the pilot. It is the co-pilot. It does its best. But as you can see here, now that I was able to catch this because I'm a developer and, I have all the know-how, I understand that this didn't run. So now you can see how the backend is being installed. As you know, working with the backend is an important part to make sure that all the libraries that we need are being installed before we can move on. Let's see if we can clean up a bit here. We have a lot of things that are currently open. Yeah, I just like to keep things neat and tidy so you see what you're doing when you're doing it there. So now it installed all the dependencies, and now we can just go back to our exercise. So what has it done? It created this initial scaffold, right? It created a virtual environment. It even stepped into the environment. It almost got there also where it installed the dependencies for the backend. But if you just want to explore the application right now, what you have, you see that we have a backend. You see that we have a front end also. Excellent. So we kind of starting with this application from the back. That means that we are installing the MongoDB database. Hands up if you know exactly what to type to install MongoDB. Probably no hands up, right? Because this is information that we don't want to keep in our head, but we rather want to rely on an agent or maybe Stack Overflow to figure out what the install command should be. In this case, thank you, agent, for giving me the instructions for how to install the binaries. So I'm going to run those. And because this is code spaces, this will install the database lightning fast in just a few seconds. So now we will soon have MongoDB ready for us to run. That was fast, right? So now we've installed the binaries, and the app is also saying, I will run some commands to start up the service called MongoDB, and will also run a command to make sure that the status of the database is okay, so we can continue. Let's try to run that. Starting database MongoDB. It says OK down here, and checking status of database MongoDB also OK. Fantastic. That means that the database part is running. Of course, the database doesn't have any data yet, but that's something we need to address. And yeah, I believe we are done with this second instruction file. So let's move on to the third one. We're making good progress today, as you can see. I'm quite excited for you. We have scaffolded our application, we have installed the binaries, and we've even started up our MongoDB database, and it's ready for us. So what we need to do here is, of course, keep working on the backend so it ends up connecting to the database. So here's our first keyboard activity. It says the following. It says to, based on the example Monafit tracker app in the docs folder, use Octofit as the name of Merge High School's app. Okay, let's set up Python Django. Okay, so that means that our backend will be developed a little bit now. So let's, as usual, paste things now in the agent. We've got accustomed to the agent knowing how to do things for us. So now the agent says, you know what, Chris, I will scaffold a Django application. Okay. I'm just happy being here. Okay, so it scaffolded a Django application. Let's see how that was done. Okay, I'm a curious soul here, so I want to see the pending changes. Here you also saw that yellow bar moving across the screen. This is the agent working for you, analyzing what it needs to do. So you can see how it adds things in good places, like install application. It also installs course. That's something we're gonna need for the front and the back end to talk to each other. And now I kind of confirm that change. Great, so there was no other pending changes, so I believe I could continue. Nothing here, right? Nope. We are still in the root of the application. Fantastic. And now it's saying run this command to run the server. Okay, let's try that. Okay, what happened here? Right, so if you saw what happened here, you saw that we stepped out of the virtual environment by mistake, and this is part of the self-healing properties of the agent. It actually recognized what happened, because every time it says no module named Django, that means because we were kicked out of the virtual environment and we installed Django in the virtual environment, it obviously didn't know what Django was. But the agent here got our back. It recognized that something went wrong, so now it's saying, run the source command again, step into the virtual environment, and then run the command. Thank you, agent. So yeah, it falls off a little bit sometimes, but as you can see, it has this self-healing property, which is a fantastic feature, because as we all know with demos, they never go perfectly. So what we want to do here is to open the application up in a new browser to see what it's saying here. And install worked successfully. So that's great. Django is giving us the thumbs up. Fantastic. And now we also have a running application. And what else is it saying? To ensure the project functions correctly, I'm reading from here, you should apply these migrations by running this command. Okay, so let's take that down. And in this case, we'll actually insert it into the terminal. So let's be smart about this. Are we in the right place for running this? Now, so if you run the Python manage command, you actually need to be in the backend folder. And this is what I'm saying. You are the pilot and it is the co-pilot, so you need to be aware. You can say to, but I'm in the root. Can you give me the correct command then? So now you can actually tell it like, hey, something went wrong here. Can you change the command to adopt itself to my circumstances? Since you're in the root, so you can see now that the command has updated itself to say, hey, okay, fair enough. This command is now octofit tracker /backend/ managed migrate. And so now we'll insert that command again. And this time the migration succeeded because I was able to have that conversation with the agent to say, what is the actual command, because this looks wrong. And now all the initial migrations ran. So we want to go back to our preview now to see where we're at. And now it's saying to initialize and create the database. Remember, I said we have a MongoDB database. We have a service that's up and running, but we don't have an actual database. That's what this command will do. So this command will produce an outcome that will end up creating the database. Again, copy paste exercise. Just make sure that you copy paste it properly. You tell the agent, this is what I'm about to do. Initialize my database. Be inspired by, the docs file here that says everything about what my database is like. So now we expect it to produce a command. And if you inspect this command a little bit, you see that it's creating several collections. Okay, fair enough. And so let's actually try to run this. And this should be then creating all the collections. And now it's asking us to run another command, which will validate to make sure that these collections exist. And now we get a bunch of collections back from the database, because now it's saying, you know what, Chris, I have a few collections in here. They are called everything from leaderboard, teams, users, and workouts. And activity, that one is at the top. Fantastic. That means that we have all the collections we need to in the database. But of course, the database is empty at this point. So what do we do about it? Well, we have another command here that will actually say a bunch of stuff. And if we see this other command, it says, let's update the application file. So we're not quite there at populating the database, but we have another command to do first. Let's make sure we capture the entire prompt here, like so. As I said, make sure you're in preview. Copy paste that. So now this time around, it will do some adjustments just to make sure that everything works downstream. So now it's looking through my application and it figures out what to do about this instruction. It's quite lengthy, but it's all good stuff in terms of configuring the application. But you just need to make sure that it has ample time to do something. Right, so it's still working on it. So one needs to be patient. I just love to see the agent work, right? Because this is code I don't need to write. You see that it's pending, it's working on both models and serializers. But if you're a curious soul, just like me, you want to see what it's up to. But it's still indicating yellow, and this progress bar here is still running, which means that we need to sit tight for a few seconds. And yeah, as I said, if you're curious, you can just go into the files and just see what it's up to and just see that agent go, right? As I said before, this is part of the heavy lifting that the agent is doing for you. This file is already done because of this symbol. So we can hit keep. And now we're just waiting for the other files to conclude before we can move on with our next step. So now you see here on the right side how the agent is saying, this is what I've done for you, Chris. All of that heavy lifting. I'm just sitting tight, waiting for things to finish. We have this symbol. And if we are curious, which we should be, we're just seeing allowed host star, which is a command that enables the front end and the back end to talk to each other. But of course, in a production scenario, you wouldn't allow star, but it's good when you are debugging and make sure that the application is initially working. So we go through these and just click keep until we've gone through all the different changes. And every time I hit keep, it just moves on to the next file and the next. And there, I believe we have updated all the different files. And let's see what it's saying here. The backend setup for the Octafit app is now complete. Fantastic. That means that all the configuration we wanted to do are done. Let's clean things up a bit. Let's make it easy for us to see what we're doing. Like so. I just want to clean things up. Let's close all the different tabs. Isn't that nice? So yeah, now that we've gone through the application configuration and setup, now the moment of truth has come with the populating of the database. So this command here will make sure that we got some initial data into our database because, we want to be able for the app to show something for us. So we paste this command as usual. And just to read it up to you loudly what it's doing, it is looking to populate the Octafit database. So let's read this. Based on the example Monofit tracker app and use Octafit as the name, let's populate the database. Whoops, sorry about that. Apologies. Let's populate the database using this markdown file as inspiration and create a test data file. Okay. And name it populate.db.py and verify the test data is populated. Okay. Good stuff. Let's run that and send that to the agent. now we're expecting the agent to create this file and insert some interesting test data within that file. So we're sitting tight a few more seconds here, and it should be done shortly. So, ooh, nice. So now it's opened up populate DB file that it promised to create, and you can see that there's some seed data here for users. What else? Activities, leaderboard entries, workouts, and so on. So there are quite a few things created within this file. We just need to wait for this file to finish. We have a pending icon here, so we want to make sure that this is actually done. Because usually, as I said before, we need to hit this keep green button once it's done. So we're just waiting for that for a few more seconds. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so the yellow symbol here indicates where it is as an agent in the file. I haven't seen it stop like this before. Yeah, because here's the thing. The next step here is to actually run these migrations and to run the file, which should ideally then pick up this migration and insert that into the database. We just want to make sure that everything that needs to happen in this file is done. Okay. So let's try to save that, see if that makes a difference. Yeah, it's important to sit tight here, but sometimes you need to interrupt it and just say, hey, you know what, agent, you're done. I just want to make sure that that is the case. Because if I do this too soon, it might not work, right? If it's not done writing to the file. But you know what? Let's actually take this command and try to run it. It will tell us if I did it too soon or not. So now we're going to run these commands. No migrations to apply. So I've actually seen this happen a few times, and the main reason is that sometimes the populate DB file here ends up in the wrong place. Yeah, so now it's actually self-healing, right? Because if you look at the difference between these commands, this one tried to run migrations generally and assuming them to be like in a system folder. But in this case, it's actually naming the migration and calling it populated DB. And in my opinion, that is the better way to do it. So now it's naming the migration and successfully populated the database with test data. That is great, right? That is exactly the green kind of status text that you want back. And now, of course, because it is an agent, it wants to verify that it says, I want to print information as JSON and print that to the screen. By all means, agent, let's do it. And okay. Implicit session, I'm trying to print stuff in the data. It seems that the collections are currently empty. And yeah, it's trying to self-heal here, right? So and this is great about the agent because a lot of things in this case is if things don't end up well, it has the ability to investigate what went wrong. So now I'm pressing keep. The issue might be related to Django ORM or MongoDB. Okay, so now we can tell the agent how do I start MongoDB and show collections. And this is just us using our know-how as developers because we roughly know what we need to do, right? We know that we need to go into our MongoDB database and see what's going on. So now it's showing us that you should make sure that the service is running. We know that that thing is running. Then you should type MongoDB as this one is saying. Okay, I should be typing this. Let's do that. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's just copy that command and paste that in. Now we switch database. Okay, fair enough. It's showing the collections. So now it's showing us the various different collections. And now I can tell you exactly what went wrong, because here's the thing. And this happens sometimes, it doesn't happen all the times, but it has created a duplicate set of collections here. So it's created Octafit collections as well as the original ones called activities and so on. So what we can do then is most likely one of our collections has data and the other one doesn't. So there's one Octafit tracker activity, but there's also an activity here. So what we can do here is list data of collection Octafit tracker activity. That's what we want to do. Of course, I could be remembering the command if I'm working often with MongoDB, but I got an agent, so I don't really feel like it. And you can see that the command here is in there. I can either run this command or I can type it manually. I choose to type it manually, db activity find, like so. That one looks empty, but if we talk to the db Octafit, the longer name here, db Octafit tracker activity, that's the other unfortunate duplication. Whoop, what did I type? Octafit tracker, what did I type? db yeah, fine, of course. Right, so now you can see that those tables are actually containing information. I choose to not to be so worried at this step, and the main reason I'm not worried is because if you know Django, you know that when it's going to go through all of these models and when it's going to run the backend for real, it will actually use this Octafit name as default. And the reason I know that is because Django's REST framework defaults to the application name underscore the collection name. So I'm not actually worried about this step. I would actually argue to say that this is working as intended. And we don't need to do the evaluation here, but what we will do is to return back to our project. So despite the fact that it looks like it's created a duplicate set of collections, one activity and one called application name underscore activity and so on for all the collections, I'm not worried because the right collections, according to me, has been populated with data. And this is also saying as the end of preview 3 here that everything is good. Let me just see. Yeah. So this is actually the end of step 3, which means we will go back to step 4 and we'll close all the others and now go into the preview. So yeah, general lesson for this is that you saw that the agent has self-healing capabilities and you can ask it what can be wrong, but this is also an unfortunate thing that happens sometimes, that it creates a duplicate collections. As developers, you can just clean up the collections you don't need, obviously, right? So what we will do here as part of step 4 is to make sure that the backend is working correctly when it's talking to the database. So in this activity here, as part of our first activity, it will set up the Django REST framework, restart the server, and test the API. So it's quite ambitious in this step. So what we need to do, and we can't just copy paste this one because there's a placeholder in here. This placeholder here is important. We need to change this to the name of our codespace environment, which is what you see up here. So you got refactored funicular something something. I mean, honestly, I'm amazed by these codespaces names, right? So we can take this command and paste it, but we can't run it because we need to edit this command. So let's paste it meanwhile here, but just keep an extra eye on these brackets. So, and then we go up here into our URL. And I believe we need everything up until this point. So copy that, make sure you have it, and then return back into your prompt, like so, and start, because we don't want to keep anything square bracket, right? So paste. And I believe there is one more entry that we need to fix. Yes, here, and let's make sure we got it all there. So why this is important is because this has to do with hosts, which host that is actually allowing on the backend when there's going to come a call. And this will also pay off towards the front end where we set up a proxy. So this should then be setting up our application, and you will see how the agent is going to work for us and do various updates. So now it's going in here and into the views, and you can see how it now sets a base URL. And this is important, right? Because you don't have to want to type the full URL when you're working with this application, but you rather want to have a base URL, and that's what was important about this command. So let's hit keep. And you can also see, as I said before, when it comes to allowed hosts, it also wants to allow this host, and 8000, that's the port that it's going to use for the backend. So now what it wants to do is to run the server. Exciting times, right? We're about to come to a point where we'll see the server running. Make sure we're standing in the root. We are. So now it ideally will be running the host for us. So now it says the host is now available on port 8000. So let's see if that's actually true. API root. Okay, here's some interesting stuff. And we see the Swagger-like interface. We like that. And we can go to, for example, users. And now we see a bunch of users. Remember how I said before, I wasn't worried about the fact that I got duplicate collections because I knew the right collections had the data. This is exactly what we're seeing. We saw users being listed. Let's do leaderboards also. We just need to do a few tests. So now we are also seeing that we seem to have data everywhere. And this is really good news, right? Because now we have the backend fully operational and working, and we are back in our code spaces. And if we want to, because the backend is now up and running, we can just hit a new terminal. We need a new terminal to run this curl command to make sure that it responds. And we can see all the responses coming back here, right? From activities, users, and so on, and happy days. That's exactly what we wanted, right? And that means that we can go back here. And we have done this command, right? We have replaced these placeholders, and we have tested our backend. We have launched it. Another way to launch your backend is also if you want to go into this little icon here and launch Django backend. That definitely works, but for the intents and purposes of this step, we have done what we should be doing, which is to start up the backend, and in a separate terminal, we have run a curl command. So we're kind of happy at this point. We've actually done with step 4. Which means that we're now going to close down a lot of things here. So, and we will come to the front end of this, because as happy as we might be as backend developers, your users aren't very happy with you at this point, right? Because they're like, yeah, Chris, I like the fact that you got a backend, but this JSON stuff, it hurts my eyes. I want to see something that looks like something visual. So what I'll be doing is I go in here, I open up a preview. So now we see how we can be setting up the front end. So we have a backend here, but the front end doesn't contain much, right? It's an empty folder, but the good news is we can do something about that. So now we need to update a few components. So this step here will tell us how to scaffold a React application here. So now we can copy paste this command, and just high level, what it's about to do is to create React app and install a React router DOM. That's the router for the front end. And it also says where it's about to go in. So we just paste all the stuff. So now it's just going through these steps, and let's make sure we are in the right spot for doing this. It's going to run npx, and it's going to go into the front end application. Yep. Okay. And this is going to ask us to proceed. So we need to interact here by typing yes and enter. And now waiting for all that lovely scaffolding to happen. Okay, so now it's saying I'm going to be creating a React app. The attempt to create a React app in the folder failed because the directory already contains a git keep file, which conflicts with the creation process. I'll remove the git keep. Okay, fair enough. Remove, always want to read one more extra time, right? So now it's removing that file, and now it's going to try to scaffold. So now you should see some more action, hopefully. yes, installing React DOM, React scripts, everything that's needed for running things with React. This is always the case with front-end applications, right? There's always a lot of dependencies to install, but thanks to code spaces, we expect this to be a fast process. So now it's installing that node modules folder that's needed for all the dependencies that React are dependent on. I expect this to just run a few more seconds, but in case you're wondering, always look at these pending icons to see what's going to happen. And yeah, it said it added 18 packages, and you see that the frontend now has a bunch of folders. Because I'm curious, I want to see the public folder. Okay, nice. The source folder, I see an app. Okay, so now it's about to install the Bootstrap. And we can see that, okay, fair enough. It's going to install Bootstrap within the front-end subfolder. Great. And Bootstrap is a CSS library that's going to be used to make sure that everything looks pretty. And now it's about to install what? React Router DOM. Okay, so that's our router application, so we can have multiple pages. Let's install that. Okay, super. It's still working on it, so I guess it has something more to install, right? Okay, working on index.js. Okay, importing Bootstrap, I like that. According to me, it should also be creating some subcomponents here because we don't want everything is one gigantic app. Let's see here. Let's just review what it's saying. I've installed the React DOM, your router library. The React app is now set up with Bootstrap. Okay, that sounds good. I think I expected it to create some subcomponents. But let's see if I can inspect it. Okay, so first off, we are on step 5 here. We are installing, okay, I was premature. I've done this lab so many times, so I just remember what happens. So this was me giving you a whiff of the future, but this is actually in this command. So in this command, it's saying, you know what, Chris, I will create subcomponents, because if you've ever built a front end in React or some other framework, know that you want multiple components, so it's easy to maintain. But that command is here. Again, here's a placeholder, so be careful here. It's actually saying here to replace this with the code spaces name as we did before. So be careful here. Paste this, but don't run it. And now we have to go in again and borrow this little name up here. Refactored, blah, blah, blah. There, copy. And now let's go find that placeholder and replace it. It was just one place, right? It was. Okay. So now we go into the square bracket here. There, paste it. Looks good. Let's run it. So now it should be doing a bunch of cool stuff with our front end for the sake of maintenance, right? Because nobody wants one big app component inside of a front end project. We all know that we need dedicated component, whether we're using Vue or React or Angular or any such framework. But we are counting on the agent to do all the heavy lifting for us. So now it's working on it, and I can just sit back and sip some more coffee, or if you got chai, cheers. So it's created a activities folder here. Activities, component subfolder, exactly what I needed. And you can see how activities, leaderboard, teams, users is about to create all of those, exactly what I mentioned. Great. We see all of those scaffolded. And honestly, as a front-end and back-end developer, I've done this so many times. I'm so happy that I got an agent doing all the heavy lifting for me, so I can just focus on the fun part. Because this is initial scaffolding, right? I know I'm going to be asked to do updates and whatever else and sit in a lot of meetings as a developer, right, to decide what to build. But at least I know that I can pivot and I can change fast if I need to, because I got my best friend here, the agent. And yes, we want to keep this. And as you can see that it's referring to the components instead. So we definitely want to make sure that that happens. App.js looks like it was, we just confirmed that. And let's just read the outcome here. No errors were found, blah, blah, blah. But there's a few updates here that we need to acknowledge. Keep leaderboard.js looks good. Yep. You can see, by the way, if you're curious, you see that all the components are going to full URL. We know as React developers, we know that we can probably replace this, make this a bit nicer by having a proxy entry in the package JSON. But for now, we just want to make sure that things work because we can optimize later, right? So yeah, we got a bunch of subcomponents. That's really good news. Let's try to close things down a little bit. As I said, I like it neat and tidy. And let's close down all the files because I want to be able to return back and see what my next step is. So now I was at the point here, right, where we created these components and we can actually launch the front end. Now, as front-end developers, we know that there are many ways that we could be doing this when it comes to launching. We could either use this icon or we can go into our package JSON and run it from there, because it should 100% be possible to start the front end from here by running npm start, or you could be running it from this. This is really like up to you. I'm in a terminals kind of guy. So if I want to run this, I would need to go here, or I could be asking the agent to literally do this, but I just want to do this here. Remember how we need to double check that the backend is running, right? Because if the backend isn't running, it's not going to be so happy with me doing this. So here, nope, that's not a backend. We can actually clean this up. You see that it's quite happy in creating a lot of terminals that we may or may not need. And here we got something running. Okay, so what is this? Yeah, so this is the backend running, and the reason I know that is that the last command it ran was run server 8000. We just wanted to have that acknowledgement because without a running backend, the front end would run into a lot of issues, right? So we know that we now are inside of, now that's the root. Where was I? Easy to lose yourself here, but now we can see that we're in the front end, and I'm going to run npm start. And in a perfect world, this works beautifully now, right? The front end talking to the back end. I'm going to cross my fingers for this to work. Octafit tracker activities, yes, they are being listed. Isn't that a beautiful sight? But of course, if you're a front-end developer, your eyes are bleeding right now, right? Because you're looking at an application with no styling whatsoever, and you're like, huh. But on the other hand, if that's your biggest concern, know that, again, this lab has your back, because it's going to say, use Bootstrap, make it beautiful. Right, so now we got the front end up and running, and now we can run a command again. Let's actually take down the front end for now and just let it work its magic. And now we are running this command, and honestly, I'm a bit excited here, right? Because this is the fun part for me. I've spent many years being a front-end developer, but also a back-end developer, but there's something special about delivering this fantastic visual experience for the customers, right? So I'm half expecting some magic and half expecting that I probably need to tweak something anyway, but at least I will get some kind of initial nice proof of concept appearance, right? So now I'm curious about all the edits, and I'm fully expecting it to use cards and other nice components as part of Bootstrap. And I can see it's working hard here, and I can acknowledge all of these changes. Yes, it seemed to be using container, table, okay, fair enough. Table striped. It's going through all these various bits. Still working on users, let's acknowledge that. Workouts, okay, it seems to be one more component left. Great, great, great. Was there anything else, or were those all the components? Yep, it's done all the things. Let's see, are we in the right place? Yes, front end, running front end, and this time around we expect a better appearance. That looks a bit better, right? Oh, just, I have to say, I really love these usernames. I have to say Thunder God Metal Geek. For someone who listens to this kind of music, you know, rock and roll and stuff, Thunder God, that's a very fitting name. It might not look like much, but this is definitely a working full stack application. If we want to jazz it up by adding blue or red or whatever theme color you have for your company, now's the time to do it. So there you saw it, folks. We actually went through the entire exercise. Let's just double check, make sure that we don't have something in here that we need to do as well. So let's just run this in preview. But this is honestly the full exercise today. And yeah, so there is another keyboard activity that is optional because I think we are running up on full time. But if you want to run this activity, you see that we can summarize and review a PR also with Copilot. I'm going to let you do this one, but we did create a full stack application today from absolute nothing. We installed a database. We got the backend up and running with the front end. We even styled it with Bootstrap. And if you are like me, you probably want to go in there and make it even more fun, add images, whatever you want to add. So I'm going to go back into PowerPoint at this point and take us out. So right, we have created our full stack application today. We have been inside of Codespaces. You've seen all the magic. And yes, you have a working app. It didn't look exactly like that. Every run is a bit different, but you definitely got an Octafit tracker working from front end to back end to database. And you can style it to your heart's content. And if you want to also run step 6, if you want to leverage your agent to work with pull requests as well, but I'm going to leave that one with you. There's some resources that we want you to have a look at. So you learn more about Copilot and all its features. GitHub models, those are AI models. If you didn't know, you can definitely try generative AI for free via GitHub. All you need is a GitHub account. There's also extensions that you need to have installed. And I talked and showed you today the capabilities of the Copilot Agent Mode, how it did all that heavy lifting for you. And congratulations, if you've done all these things with me, you got a working application, you are part of a Guinness World Record attempt. So confirm your participation by scanning this QR code and also share your success. We want to see what you built. Use this hashtag AI Skills Fest so we can see on LinkedIn, on X, or on TikTok, whatever you're trying to use, that you are part of this Guinness record. Thank you so much for attending. Celebrate that success of yours. Scan this QR code and also have a look at credentials for our Microsoft certifications. We have many certifications, so you might want to browse and see if there's any certifications that works for you. But I also want to say that this is not the end, but rather the beginning. It is April 8th today, but we will run exciting activities throughout the entire month from April 8th to May 28th. You are part of AI Skills Fest, so something fun is going to happen every day. So make sure that you tune in and see what we're doing. And we also are running this agent hack here between April 8th and April 20th. So definitely check out the AKA link to see how you could be building agents with us. So the question is, what will you learn next? Hopefully you learn how to use GitHub Copilot Agent Mode to build a full stack app or whatever else application. That's all from me today. So back to the control room and see if we can take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. I think we had a lot of questions, but our wonderful student team has already answered to most of them. So, like Chris already said, please feel free to reach out to him if you have any further questions about today's sessions, or in general, if you want to reach out to him, please feel free to reach out to him. And thank you once again for hosting this amazing session. And thank you all for joining us today. Please visit Microsoft Reactor website for more upcoming sessions. And also, we would appreciate your feedback on today's session, as it will help us to curate future session. Please scan the QR code and do share your feedback. Today's event ID is 25295. Feel free to use the Learn module link. This will give you access to additional resources to take your learning further. Thank you all once again and enjoy the rest of your day.